This video is about informative writing. By the end of this video, you should be able to answer the following questions. What is informative writing? When do you use informative writing? How do you write informatively? And what does informative writing look like? So let's begin by defining informative writing. As the name says, informative writing is writing that informs. This type of writing has the purpose to help the reader better understand something. Sometimes informative writing tells how something happens or how to do something. At other times, a piece of informative writing might define specific terms. Informative writing can also explain why something has occurred, or it can simply provide facts about a topic. So when would you use informative writing? Well, I'm sure you've written research papers in high school or other college experiences, and most of those research assignments probably asked you to explain a topic. Those were all informative writing. Have you ever seen the 4 Dummies books? All of those are designed to explain a topic in an easy to understand way so that anybody can completely understand it. Those are all pieces of informative writing too. So are instruction manuals, because the purpose of an instruction manual is to tell us how to do something. It's also a piece of informative writing. But informative writing is also used in the workplace. Here are some examples of how this can happen. One is a medical chart. If a doctor, nurse, or medical assistant is updating a medical chart to explain what the patient's symptoms are, what the diagnosis is, or what the types of medication or other treatment that should be used, that's all informative writing. Police reports are informative writing too. In a police report, we're taking a victim statement. A police officer might be describing a crime scene or a traffic accident, and so those are pieces of informative writing too, because their purpose is to provide more detail and explain something. A lot of memos written in the workplace are also pieces of informative writing. The purpose of a memo is to provide information to a larger audience, and a lot of that time the information is the explanation of a new policy or information about something else that has happened in the workplace. The last example of how informative writing is used in the workplace would be a lot of legal documents, a briefing, a summary of a judgment entry. Those are also pieces of informative writing. So now that we know what informative writing is and we've seen some examples of how it's used, let's look at how exactly we can write using this style of writing. As you know, the first step in completing any writing task is to pre-write or generate ideas. When you're pre-writing, you should also consider 2 things, your purpose and your audience. When you're writing something and you're thinking of your purpose, you should ask yourself, what is my main point and what do I want to accomplish? And if you've decided that what you want to accomplish is to explain a topic, explain how to do something, or help your reader understand, then you're writing informatively. When you know you're writing informatively, you need to consider your audience to make sure that you're providing enough information so that your audience completely understands your topic. You might want to ask yourself the following questions. Who is going to read this? And what do they already know about my topic? By determining that, you will learn if you need to explain any jargon or specified vocabulary terms, and if you need to provide additional background information to ensure that your audience will really understand your topic. After you've generated some ideas and considered your purpose and your audience, it's time to start drafting. When drafting a piece of informative writing, there are some things you should keep in mind. Because the purpose of informative writing is to fully explain a topic or a process or provide some facts, you should write from your own experience. Choose a topic that you already know. If you're assigned a topic that you don't know, then you need to do some research. This will help you learn about the topic so that you can present the information about the topic in a way that makes you look like an expert. Informative writing is offering a lot of facts. This is where you're speaking truthfully about a topic, and you stay away from providing your own opinion. So now that we know what informative writing is, we've seen examples of how it can be used, and we've discussed how to write with informative writing, let's look at a few examples of some informative paragraphs to get a better idea of what informative writing looks like. Here's our first example of an informative writing paragraph. English is the language spoken throughout most of Canada, but in Quebec, the most populated province, and in areas near Quebec, French is the first language. Because of this, Canadians recognize French and English as official languages that are used in business and government. Many people are bilingual and easily go from French to English and vice versa when speaking with tourists. The farther west you go, the more English you'll hear, but it is common to meet people throughout the country who are familiar with both languages. This paragraph is all about the two most common languages spoken in Canada, French and English. So our topic sentence is this. Canadians recognize French and English as official languages that are used in business and government. Every other sentence in here gives us more facts or more information about Canadians speaking both French and English. We learn about where French is most prominent in Quebec and areas near Quebec. And we also learned that most people are bilingual in both French and English, and that you hear more English the farther west you go, but most people are familiar with both languages. This piece of informative writing is telling us about the use of language in Canada. It is presenting strictly factual information, and there is no opinion provided. So this is a good example of informative writing. Here's a second example of an informative paragraph. Here is one system for cleaning your room. First, move all of the items that do not have a proper place to the center of the room. Get rid of at least 5 things that you have not used within the last year. Then, take out all of the trash and place all of the dirty dishes in the kitchen sink. Now, find a location for each of the items you placed in the center of the room. For any remaining items, see if you can squeeze them in under your bed or stuff them to the back of your closet. So this paragraph is explaining to us how to clean our room. Therefore, here's our topic sentence. Here is one system for cleaning your room. The rest of the paragraph gives us step-by-step instructions as to how to clean a room. This doesn't provide any opinion. It doesn't tell us this is the best or the only method to clean a room. It just says it is one method. Because it's explaining a process of how to do something, it's also an informative paragraph. So as we have seen, informative writing prevents facts and experience, sometimes can be backed by research, but it does not provide any opinion. Hopefully, after watching this video, you have a better understanding of what informative writing is.